This is a
Good time, Charlie?
production.
On your marks, get set, play.
I love that.
Good favor.
That I really like.
That is delicious.
And just like that, we're back. It's Creme Patisse. It's a Great British Bake Off podcast. Usually, we have Nick Jew and Anthony and myself here. No Nick Jew tonight. It's her birthday. Make sure you tell her happy birthday next. By the time you hear this, it's a great
birthday, Nick.
She's a great lady. We got to celebrate her, and she'll be back next episode. Worry not. But we're back now because of the return of the Great American Baking Show, Series 7 overall, but the second series over on Roku. If you missed the 2023 holiday special, Ellie Kemper is no longer one of our hosts, but Zach Cherry is joined by fellow actor and improviser Casey Wilson, who fits in perfectly.
Big
You have
fan.
8 bakers in the tent this go around, including Chris. I'm going to try to pronounce all these people's names. We'll get them better as time goes on. Chris Kuroof of Sutherland, California. Mackenzie Rubish of Fallbrook, California. Ronald R.J. Winter of Chico, California. Nicole Aufdehauer, woof, that's a German name, of Walker, Minnesota. Ruon Zhang of San Francisco. Victoria Walters of Philadelphia. Jennifer Reyes of New York City. And our special guest this evening, Youngstown, Ohio's own Brad Gessner. Brad, welcome to Creme Patisse. Thank you so very much for joining us. I am very excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to talk to you and Anthony too, T.
Thank you so very much. We've been doing a Great British Bake Off and general podcast for some years now. And of course, then last year when the Great American Baking Show moved over to Roku, we picked that up because we had people say, "Are you guys going to review the Great American Baking Show?" And we were like, "I guess we will." And so we did last season of the Great American Baking Show, and we did the Christmas special this past holiday season. And so we've just been trucking along doing all our various little Bake Off based podcasts, and it's always a bit of a good time when Bake Off comes back, or the baking show in this case. We're in America, so and it's always a good time.
It's okay, I won't tell.
Hey, I fully think we should just call it Bake Off over here as well, but Pillsbury does not agree. So, but. The Great American Baking Show returns Friday, May 24th. The day you hear this episode, over on Roku, you should be watching it. And no, you don't need a Roku device. It'd be great if you had one. Well, I'll say nothing to the contrary. But if you don't, you can just go on their website and watch it there. It works fantastic on the computer. And I enjoy it, of course, on the big screen over here.
You can even watch it on your phone.
Yeah, for a while there, our co-host Nick Jew was watching it on her phone, and then we just basically the show bought her a Roku so she could watch her TV properly. Like, no, don't watch this on your phone. You need to experience this.
I'll look better on the big screen
For sure, assuredly. Brad, man, tell us all about yourself, sir.
Well, I'm 63 years old. I was the old guy in the tent. I born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio. I'm an attorney for 38 years, and past 23 years, I was actually telling Anthony today's my work anniversary. For 23 years, I've worked at the Summit County Prosecutor's Office in Akron.
Nice.
I'm the chief counsel for Prosecutor Elliot Kokovich, and baking is my stress reliever. I'm married, my wife, Mary Lou. We've got 2 kids. Kylie is 25. Connor is 22. And Tater Bell's our dog. She's 12 and a half.
Nice. Very cool.
Name.
Anthony and I have been at our jobs. At our job, we work for the same company for 22 years this year ourselves. So we know what it is.
Yeah.
Gotta be old hat at a place. But I love it, man. I super dig that. How long have you been baking? And when did you think I might be pretty good at this.
Well, I've been baking since I was 6 years old.
Oh.
My mother was this amazing baker. In 1970, I remember going to the Ohio State Fair. She was Mahoning County's champion baker and
nice.
baked at the state fair. My grandmother lived 12 houses down the street from us. So growing up, it was either I was at home. I wasn't allowed to cross the street in front of our house, but I could cross the street to get to grandma's. And you'd go down there and grandma would be baking. And she had 6 kids, so she knew how to bake. She had 6 kids during the Depression, so she really knew how to make things. And so I was exposed to that. My mother, her 2 sisters, one sister lived here in town, Aunt Betty. Aunt Ethel lived up in Cleveland. And Aunt Ethel was, again, one of those people that could make anything or do anything. So it was just something we were always around. My dad was a bricklayer. So if we wanted something or that, they usually figured a way to make it. So
Very
you
cool.
might go out to a restaurant or go to a bakery and see something, and you might get it once, but the next time mom was figuring out how to make that. So, and this is before the internet, before computers, and it's just amazing the things that, I mean, I look and I say I was her sous chef, because I was the guy that had to grease the pans and put the flour on them. I had to get everything out. In Youngstown, we have a cookie called the clothespin cookie. Pittsburgh, they call it lady locks. They're like little French pastry wrapped with a marshmallow cream filling.
Yeah.
I'd get home from school. Mom would have the table covered. I mean, it would be piles of them. And she'd go, you need to start filling those. So my sister and I, my older brother got away with not doing a whole lot of this stuff, but my sister and I, we'd be sitting there filling them, and then she'd just sprinkle powdered sugar on them. And that was, it just got to the point where it was in my blood. So I started baking, and then remember when I had my first apartment up in Medina County, one day I saw a magazine and it had this soccer tort in it, this Austrian tort. And I thought, I love chocolate. And I said, I think I'm going to try to make one of those. So I called my mother up, and she goes, I don't know what those are. So I made it. I went and got a springform pan, did all this. And then after I married my wife, we actually went to Austria and went to the Hotel Soccer, and I got a real one. I said, I wasn't that far off.
Great.
So
I love it. Oh my gosh.
And then as Aunt Betty was the pie maker of the family. So every holiday you'd come to, Aunt Betty'd have the pies. There was always an egg custard pie for me. That was my favorite. It was my grandma's recipe. There was an apple pie. There were pumpkin pies. And as Aunt Betty got older, said, I can make those for you. So but it got to the point where my wife's going, I think you have a problem. We don't need 12 pies for 20 people. And I said, but everyone likes their own.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So it just morphed. And then once pandemic hit, it was like, oh my God, I mean, what else do you have to do but bake? That's when bread sort of came into it.
Yeah.
And my mother and I would watch a lot of the shows on Food Network, watch a Great British Baking Show. And she would go, I mean, my mother was a tougher judge than Paul and Prue. So you'd sit there and watch, and she'd go, what are they doing that for? That's not how you make that. And so she encouraged me to try out for these shows. And actually for the Great American Baking Show in 2019, I tried out for the first time.
Okay.
And my wife and I did a day trip up to New York City to meet with the producers, and I took 2 bakes up of my choice and their bake of their choice. And the producer sat down. She's going, okay, this cake, it was a almond raspberry cake I made. And she goes, okay, what's the difference between the red icing in it and the white icing? And I said, well, raspberries. She goes, okay, what I need you to do is I need you to start looking. She goes, instead of American buttercream, try some Swiss buttercream, try Italian buttercream. And she went down through the list of, okay, have you baked this? Have you baked that? Have you baked this? And I thought I was really cool because she said, have you baked macarons? And I said, yes, I have. She goes, Italian or French method?
Oh.
And there was that pause enough for her to go, okay, you need to be able to do both.
Wow.
So we were actually traveling. My daughter was studying abroad that summer. So we went over to meet with her, and that was in July when you're preparing. If you're on the show, you're preparing for it.
Yeah.
So after my meeting with the producers in New York, I didn't hear anything. So mom then got sick, and when my mother said to me, she goes, "Did you hear back from that show?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "Well, the hell with them then." She goes, "They don't know what they're missing." So I continued then to learn all of those things, to try the different things. I mean, my daughter's wedding cake was Italian buttercream with chocolate cream filling in part of it, with black raspberry cream filling in the other part.
You got to make your
You made
daughter's
it.
wedding cake.
Yeah, it wasn't by choice.
Still, that is, I mean, amongst being able to dance with her, of course, and so forth, and all the good things that come with being dad and walk her down the aisle, to be able to bake that cake, I think that's amazing.
Well, you should have seen when it was get up in the morning, go put the cake together in the hall, and get back in time to get out to the church. That was
Fair.
pushing it. But if you've never been to a wedding in Youngstown,
Yeah.
what you need to know is there's a thing called the Youngstown cookie table. So our weddings, we have these huge cookie tables, and those are more important. So the day after the wedding, people don't really talk about the bride's dress. They don't talk about the wedding cake. They go, did they make clothespin, and how did they taste? Were they soggy? Were they crisp? And so between my wife and I, we made 300 dozen cookies, and there was another 100 dozen from family and friends there. So there were 400 dozen cookies besides that cake.
Hokey smokes.
And then Pittsburgh's another town, and it's interesting that we're better though. Pittsburgh has their cookie tables, and Youngstown theirs. And last weekend on Sunday, I actually went to an event in Pittsburgh called the Wedding Cookie Table. It's a Facebook group. They've got 234,000 members. They had the Cookie College. There were 1,400 people there, and they had cookie tables with 19,000 different cookies.
Wow.
I mean, not different cookies, but 19,000 cookies, 140 different varieties. So these are big deals. So that was another thing that preparing for this show, basically, cookies were things where I've made all mom's recipes, and my mom, probably the week and a half, 2 weeks before she passed away, that I went in. It was the last conversation I had, real conversation I had with her. She just looked at me and she goes, "I don't think I'm going to make it to the wedding this summer." And she goes, "But you got to make sure." And she starts, "You got to make sure you got the cookie table. Okay, I want you to make these. I want you to make those." And I mean, that's the last conversation I really remember having with my mother, was her talking about what I had to bake.
Yeah.
And so then getting into the tent was just, that time in the tent was also time with my mom.
That is fantastic. I love that her memory lives on just through your baking and through your the cookie table and so forth. That is so wonderful. My gosh. Go ahead,
Her
Ed. I'm
birthday
sorry.
tomorrow.
Oh, good. Hey, happy birthday to her then, no doubt.
No, I was just saying that was a wonderful thing to be able to do. Like being able to have her memory live on in so many different ways.
Yeah, for sure.
And we actually, the cake topper for my daughter's cake was my mother and father's cake topper from 75 years earlier.
Oh, my gosh.
So when we went through mom's things, I found the cake topper. I knew it was there, and I told my daughter, I go, "Okay, there's some little chips on this. I can paint those." And she goes, "No. You leave those just like they are."
Love it. I love it.
So
I didn't grow up with a ton of traditions, so I've tried to make a ton of traditions with my kids, and so I love the idea of hearing about all these things and so forth. Man, you would, like I said, we're just up here in Cleveland. It's not like we're, what is that, 50 miles up the road? I've never heard of a cookie table. That's amazing to me that such a difference can exist between these two towns. That's crazy. Now all I want to do is have a cookie table.
Graduation parties, baby showers, weddings. It's a big deal.
For sure. My goodness gracious. Let's see. Like I said, I got a nice little list here. Were you? I mean, I guess you kind of have answers, but I'll ask it anyway. Were you? Are you a fan of of GBO BBO? And if so, do you have a favorite season or baker?
Nadia.
Okay.
A lot of people love Nadia. Yeah.
Just to see someone who can go in there and you just see the joy as she's doing it and everything that sort of was, I think, how a lot of us were in the tent this year.
Yeah.
And it was that spirit there, because the coolest part of this whole bake-off had nothing to do with baking. It had to do with the 7 people that I got matched up with in the tent.
Yeah.
So by the day we got into the tent, because we were in an apartment building off site, and I got in on a Friday night. I was the first one in. So I got the nicest apartment. I had the balcony, and but the next day, one of the other bakers, we had figured out who some of the people were. I mean, they don't tell you who anyone is.
Yeah.
So we sort of figured out on Instagram, some of us are friends, and went, okay, they've not been posting anymore, so they must be getting ready. So we started figuring some things out, and Jen from New York messaged me on Instagram. She goes, I think you're here, are you? I said, yeah. And she goes, what floor? And I said, 3rd floor. And she goes, I'm down the hall. And so then she goes, I think Nicole's here too. So next thing we know, we got a hold of Nicole and found a couple other people. We went down, decided we were going to walk to dinner. And as we're walking there, RJ's this big, huge guy in our group. RJ comes out, and we look at him and go, you bake? And he went, yeah. We go, okay, we're going to dinner. So we were this family quick.
Yeah.
And it was just the spirit in these people was just so amazing.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love hearing that. So you watch Bake Off, so you kind of get an idea of their style of baker. What do you think is the big difference between American bakers or bakers from the States and I guess bakers from the UK? What do you think separates our styles in the kitchen there?
I think they're a little bit more laid back. I think we get more nervous and uptight and anxious.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a star work ethic that we've all been raised with.
Well, I think it's also a lot of the technicals they've heard before. We didn't.
Fair. That actually, that will push over there. Just like, this is insane. Why'd you choose this? Oh my goodness. What's the audition process involved? You kind of walk us through your original audition, but what's going on there? Would you recommend people try their hand at it, or?
Oh, sure. It's something. I think. I mean, Anthony, you're talking about all the different things you've baked. You got to try out for the show. I mean, this is just normal people. That's the part you get in there, and all of a sudden you see what people are doing, and you go, "Oh my God! I wish I could do that." And you go, "I can do that." And you just, and I think we don't have enough confidence in ourselves. So there was an online application. I think they've just finished selecting the cast members for next year's season.
Yeah.
They've just gone through that. So you go online, and it's probably about 15 pages of questions. There's a lot of typing. They want to know who you are, what makes you tick, what type of things your baking experiences are, what you like to do, what you don't like to do. You have to record a little 2-minute video in there, and then post some pictures of things that you've made that came out good, because I don't think you'd put anything that didn't. And then they go through those. It was when we were over in England. We had 2 guys that were our handlers. Yeah. We had Jake and Mateo. And Jake one day said, "Do you guys realize there were 20,000 people who applied for these 8 spots?"
Wow.
And he goes, before you second guess yourself on anything, realize just where you are and how you made it here. And he goes, so have confidence in yourself. And that's a little bit, like I said, the difference between, and he told it, he was a casting producer for the British show.
Yeah.
So then for the Americans, he says, I'll take care of you guys. I mean, he said we were his kids. And so I told him, I go, you got some really old kids. But it's great. So you go through this process and you submit it. And then a lot of times you don't hear anything for a while. In 2019, I hit send on my computer at home. And that night I was taking my son to a meeting 10 minutes away. And as we're pulling into the parking lot, my phone rings and I see it's a California number. And I said, what do you want to bet it's a telemarketer? And I said, yeah. So I put speaker on, and the girl on the other end said, did you just apply for a baking show? And I said, yes. And she goes, okay, I've got a quiz for you. So it was through a quiz on baking skills and that, like, how do you know your bread is mixed in that? So window painting.
Yeah.
So when you can hold your dough up and see the light through. So what's that called? What's what you wanted to know. Then she said, okay, what are different types of buttercream and basically what's the difference between them? So American buttercream, Swiss buttercream, French buttercream, Italian buttercream. And actually in Chicago, when I went for the tasting this time, when we went through the buttercreams, I said, well, what about German? And one of the, not the producer, but the lady with her goes, what's German buttercream? And said the custard. And she goes, oh, okay. So again, things that in 2019 I may not have known off the top of my head that in 2023 I knew. So you go through those things and they say, okay, so they're able to determine you're a little bit serious about this. The next thing that happened was a few emails back and forth, and a casting producer said, can I get you? And actually right here where I'm at right now, casting producer called up and said, we're going to do an interview right now. I want you to realize that producers are going to look at this. I want them to know who you are. I want you to be excited. I want you to be animated and all that. So she went through and we did about an hour interview that I think she was going to take down to probably a 5-minute demo or a reel.
Yeah.
From that. So after that one, I received a call then saying, are you able to be in Chicago on Friday for a tasting? Chicago, the tasting was to bake 2 things of my own choice and 1 thing that they would send me a recipe or part of a recipe for.
Wow.
So my wife and I got in the car, drove to Chicago. Now the difference was in 2019, we left at 5 a.m, drove to New York City, went in for my interview, stopped, went and got one of the greatest hamburgers I've ever had in my life, got in the car and drove back to Youngstown in a day.
Wow.
So we decided we were going to Chicago. We were at least staying the night and getting pizza. So we went to Gino's, had ice cream, and then stayed at the hotel and came back the next day. Then it was basically you don't hear anything for a little bit. And then I get an email saying the producers would like to invite you to bake in front of them in Pasadena.
Oh,
okay.
So on a Friday night, my wife drove me to Pittsburgh Airport because I'm right in the middle of Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Yeah.
So drove me to Pittsburgh, 9:30 at night, dropped me off at the airport, flew out to California, got my Uber to the hotel in Pasadena, and went to sleep. Got up, and first thing in the morning, they took us to a culinary school. They had 2 groups of bakers. And they said, okay, you're going to bake for us. So there we were with a table in front of us with a recipe, or at least, again, part of a recipe, and our time limit, and go. 2 hours to bake for us. And I'm not going to tell you what we baked or that because when Anthony goes, he's got to be surprised as I was. Okay, so went in. They said, you got 2 hours, and as you're baking, you've got all these different distractions going on. You have producers walking in, talking to you. You have a cameraman putting a camera over your head as you're baking.
Yeah.
And at the end, said time, everyone stop, put your stuff on the table, and thank you. We went out with no response, anything like that. And so I was in the 10 a.m. group. There was a 10 a.m. group, I think, and a 2 p.m. group baking. So get out, and remember, I came in Friday night I ended up getting in there at like 11:30, 12 o'clock. And my flight out back home was at midnight. So I'm now at noon in downtown Pasadena going, what do I do for 12 hours?
Did you get a burger?
Well, ended up about 10 of the other bakers are standing there going, well, anyone hungry? So we walked down, we found a place that looked interesting. We ate there. We talked for a little bit, and that's where I met Jen and where I met Nicole the first time. They were part of my group eating lunch, and came home, and it was probably about another week. Got a call saying the producers were impressed by you, and at this point you're moving on. And basically that, you're likely to go to England. So are you able to get off of work for 4 weeks? And fortunately, I have enough time built up that
Right.
my boss was supportive. And that's the other part, is you're not allowed to tell people along the way what's going on.
Yeah.
So I told him, I go, well, I can't not tell my boss.
Yeah.
So they said, well, we understand that, and you can logistically, you can have a little bit, but we all signed non-disclosure agreements that we're not allowed to talk about it. Like, I can't tell you right now, what happened week to week on the show.
Yeah.
I can tell you the experience and everything else. But it ended up then they get you ready. So like I said, that month in 2019 that when they were getting ready for the show where I was on vacation, I couldn't have done it that year if I would have wanted to.
Okay.
Because it's hands-on.
Yeah.
So the recipes you see the bakers do, with the exception of the technical challenge, the showstoppers, and the signatures, those are our recipes. So just like you said, Anthony, that you take like 3 or 4 recipes, you look and you sort of make your own out of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we had to do. So when you send the producers, say, okay, say it's cake week, send us your cake you're going to make. They then scour the internet, and I'm sure AI helps, and they come back and go, this is too close to this published recipe. You can't do this one.
Oh.
So you need at least 3 changes in a recipe to be able to say it's yours.
Okay.
So you go through, you make these, you adapt them. I mean, I had some things of my mother's that said, okay, I'm not, and then it also, the recipes you do become their property.
Oh.
So things I want to make now, I'm again having to make my own recipe that's a little bit different from the one I did on the show.
Yeah.
So that type of thing. So you go through and you go, okay, so that part's good. And now they tell you, okay, and when you do this cake challenge, you've got 2 hours. When you do this challenge, you've got an hour and a half. You do this, you got 2.5 hours. So, and each week you would get a thing of, we need 2 recipes and we need a photo of your finished product to send to us to get back to you and tell you whether that's okay or not.
Okay.
So during those weeks, I'd go to work full time because I was going to take a month off to go to England. So I really couldn't take off the time there. So I'd come home and be up till 2 a.m. getting my recipes right. And I remember one night I did something and I said, that's it. And I just looked, it was 2 o'clock. I said, I am done. This is what they're getting. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. And my wife's there listening. My wife was such a trooper through all this, and most amazing dishwasher you've ever had. That's the part. I mean, some of the people on the show were single, and it's like, who washed your dishes? I mean, this is a lot of cleaning. So I took a picture and I said, that's it. That's what they're getting. So I go in and my wife's in bed. I go in the bathroom. I come back. I get in bed and my wife goes, you're making that again tomorrow, aren't you? And I go, yes, I am. The new and improved was done the next day.
Excellent.
So,
I love that. I love it. I love that she's there to just to kind of cheer you on as well.
yep. So all that, in doing all that, as we got from the first week of what we called a boot camp to the last week of boot camp, all of a sudden you go, damn, I can make a lot of things I didn't think I could.
Yeah.
And it gives you confidence, and you don't realize that they're in your head already. So, but they're getting you prepared for that and going. I mean, I remember one challenge, and we had 2 hours to make it there, and they told us 2 hours, and the best I could get at home was 2 hours and 5 minutes.
Oh wow.
And it was like, okay, this is going to be a problem. But by the time I got to the end, I go, I think I can do that in an hour and a half now.
Wow.
Okay.
So I mean, you learn, and again, none of our recipes are just basic. Everything has this component, that component, and you go, okay, so I've got my cake baking here now. In that 30 minutes it's baking, what are the other 5 things I need to do or get started? That I know I need to go take my cooling rack for my cake and put it in the freezer, because there's nothing to cool my cake when I get it out, and we're outside. So you do that, and that even just that little bit of a cold cooling rack is going to cool your cake down quicker.
In your life, are you normally so organized, so regimented? Are you more of a no, this is not who I am at all?
I am someone who appears very organized.
Hey, that works. Sometimes you got to put on the face.
But I've become, but I've become the baker. What's the French thing? Mise en place, where everything is in place. So before you start your recipe, you've got everything out there. It's sort of like the technical challenge when you lift that tablecloth off, and all your ingredients are there. You're ready to go. So now when I bake, it's like, okay, growing up, it was, I remember my mother baking, and we had a little family grocery store just up the street from us. It was called Schiavone's. And Mom would be in the middle of baking, and she'd go, Brad. I go, what? She goes, run to Schiavone's. I need more butter. So I'm running up there. So now it's like everything's out. Everything's in its place. And now I can make my mess. So.
I dig it. You're a clean baker. You'll see some bakers who are just like a bit of a mess going on, but you're better than that. You know what I'm saying? You keep a nice clean worktop.
I'll say yes. My wife will say no. But I think I am. Because again, it's that idea. But go back to in Medina when I made my soccer tort. I don't think you could get in the kitchen for a week.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So, but I mean, now, but it's the idea now of, again, it seems like I can't make anything simple. I did week and a half ago, we had the Attorney General, Dave Yost, was coming into the office, and his local representative, her brother's an attorney in our office, and Matt knows I bake. So Lindsay sends a note saying, the Attorney General expects you to bake something tomorrow. I didn't know she was joking. So I made pasta di nata, the little Portuguese egg custard tarts. And I made these mini cream tarts with crackling on the top. And I'd put a homemade strawberry jam in, and then a vanilla pastry cream. And I just got a little card from the AG saying, I thank you for sharing your talents with me. But
that's
it's that idea of, I can't just make brownies anymore. They got to be amped up now.
Well, there you go. That's what you've learned. That's what you've taken from all this. I'll dig it. I certainly do love that. So this is a weird one. This is a goofy one. How much time do you get to spend with our judges and our hosts when they're not filming? Are you and Zach Cherry talking about the next season of Succession? Or Severance, not Succession?
Okay. All right. The judges are not there as much as the host.
Okay.
So the host will be wandering around. They'll be talking. But there are also other people who are there talking to us. So a lot of times when you see the bakers talking to the camera, it's not the host, it's not the judge back there behind the camera. There's like a person who that's their job is to get you talking about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the part where there are times where they don't come and say, can we ask you some questions? You in the middle, they go, okay, Brad, tell us what you're doing right now. And it's like, I'm trying to get this done without you bothering me. So depending on the editing, you may or may not see some of that.
And that'll definitely be like the hardest part for me is like, when I'm focused and trying to get something done, it's very hard for me to try to talk to other people. Because my kids are coming to the kitchen. I'm like, I'm making dinner right now, buddy.
Yeah, now just figure your kid's coming in with this big, huge camera shoving it in your face at the same time. Or you're looking to go, I'm trying to figure, and then they tell you, don't open your oven unless we got the camera there.
Wow.
Logical.
And it's like, okay, I'm making a split-second decision on when I need to take this out of the oven.
Yeah.
And you go, hey, I'm going to open the oven. And they go, well, hold on. It's like, no.
So of course they're using Celsius ovens over there. What do they do for us Fahrenheit guys over here? What do they do to help you guys adjust?
Okay, well, it's sort of like I'm ambidextrous now. I guess that would be the best word for it. So the recipes we made that we sent to them, anytime we put our Fahrenheit, we put our /Celsius.
Okay.
So you put those in there. Same thing is every recipe we do is by weight. There are no measuring cups there. I mean, it's all grams in that and milliliters. So it's that idea that you go over there. Now, the other part that nobody told me about is ingredients in England are not the same as ingredients in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. Our flour, we're used to all-purpose flour having, say, 10.5 to 11.5 grams of gluten in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's grams or whatever, but it's the gluten, a percentage of gluten.
Percentage of protein. Yeah. Gluten is a protein.
We're going to go over there and our all-purpose flour is going to have 12%. Our bread flour here is going to be different than our flour over there. And then the producer actually one day, so one of the early things there was first group activity is they go, okay, we're going to the grocery store.
Oh, okay.
So we all meet outside the apartment building and Waitrose grocery store.
Yeah.
Waitrose that they took us to was the size of one of our giant eagles.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm expecting these little tiny, because all around our apartments are these little, there was Aldi's.
Oh, nice.
And so you go to those places, but we take a field trip to Waitrose, which was about 3/4 of a mile away. And she takes us to the sugar aisle and says, this is what I was telling you about. There are 40 different types of sugar in the UK. Okay.
I'll hear them say things like castor sugar. And I'm like, what is that compared to our, the sugar I have over here on the counter?
Yes. They don't bake with what we have, the equivalent of our table sugar.
Yeah.
They would never bake with. Castor sugar, which is super fine sugar.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I make macarons, and there's a store in our area now called Meyer that actually sells, it's I think C&H or something like that, super fine sugar. It looks like a milk carton.
Okay.
And it's actually, and I looked it up. It's a subsidiary of Domino's. Domino. I don't know why Domino doesn't sell the big thing of it.
Yeah.
So you get that, and your macarons are going to come out 10 times better with that sugar in mixing in with your eggs. When you're making meringues, it dissolves so much easier. So the English do have a little bit on us on that.
Yeah.
So the brown sugars are all different. The molasses content and that in them. There was a thing called jam sugar. Okay, you can buy in the grocery store a bag of jam sugar, and jam sugar has the natural pectin in the sugar cane. They isolate it and put it in the jam sugar. So it's a concentrate of that pectin. So when you make jam, you put your fruit and you put your sugar. And
you don't have to bother with the addition of pectin.
You don't have to put the pectin in. And
how are we not doing that over here?
Because it's all natural, and we have to add all this crap into our food.
Yeah.
so I mean, there's not a thing of there. You don't find bleached flour anywhere over there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I start several years ago, switched to unbleached flour, and I take unbleached flour and I put it next to bleached flour and I look and go, there is nothing different with these.
Yeah.
Except for all the chemicals that go in the bleached flour. So it's like somehow we think we've made things better when just take the natural stuff.
Yeah.
So again, then cream. We've got heavy whipping cream. There's single cream. There's double cream over there. Yeah. Neither one of them are heavy cream. So you're going to make these things, and you just have these little twist to your challenges over there.
Same thing that you're like, man, I wish I could have came home and get with this. Like, what type of ingredient do you think we need that over here?
I stopped at a grocery store before I left, and I went in and I'm walking down the aisle, and I decided I was not leaving without a bag of jam sugar.
Yeah. Oh,
I didn't care if my luggage was going to be overweight or not. I was getting jam sugar, and I'm in this little Waitrose. It was a smaller one, and there's this little old English lady walking by me, and I see jam sugar and canning sugar, and all of a sudden I go, okay, wait a minute. I came in for jam sugar, but maybe canning sugar's better. And I said, excuse me, ma'am, can you tell me what the difference is between the jam sugar and the canning sugar? And she looked at me and said, I'm not much of a cook. Ask someone else, and walked by. but she did it with a really nice English accent.
Hey. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. So, TV, we see our host saying, 5 minutes left. Is that what's going on in the tent?
That's going on in the tent. Now, here's the one thing. Sometimes they go, oh, we forgot to tell you it was 5 minutes left. You only have 2, but we're going to yell 5 minutes anyway.
Oh, no.
But as you're going on too, so, I mean, we're not allowed to watches.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
In the tent. We're not allowed our phones in the tent. So you don't have clocks.
Wow.
So you might have timers for things there. And when you've got things in the oven, you've got your timer you're setting and that. But you call out and you go, okay, how much time's left?
Okay.
And they do respect that and let you know.
Okay. That's cool.
So,
wow.
And I mean, and again, we're all there working with each other too. It's like, okay, come on. I mean, and I remember I'm in the middle of something and going, okay, I already used the one saucepan. They took it to clean, and I need a saucepan right now.
Yeah.
And I just yelled, okay, has anyone got a saucepan? And Chris is like, here, use mine. And then like a minute later, Chris goes, damn, I needed that saucepan. Now that part will get edited out.
To rotate back in, the panel show up. Somebody will have it. All right. Do you get to try each other's bakes?
Yes. Yes. After you're all done, they bring us a tray, and you just go, oh, I mean, it's like one oh my god after another. Oh my god.
Yes.
So I mean, we had a little like tent, because we're there, at the tent. We leave the apartment like 6 o'clock in the morning, and we get back 7 to 8 o'clock at night.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I want to say I don't know. They do it more of the American style of production for the baking of the American Bake Show, which makes sense, but still.
Yeah. So when you get there, they've got a little trailer that they serve you breakfast out of. It was pretty cool. They had, and then lunch they'd serve to us, and that. So we had our little tent, and so after we would bake and they would judge, and that we'd go back. Back to our little. They had some trailers there for us to rest in for a little bit of that, and they'd bring a tray with samples of everything.
Nice.
And it was like, but I mean, you taste one after the other and go, okay, this is just amazing. Then you, oh, this is just amazing. Oh, this is just amazing. Then so I'm right now, I'm almost 40 pounds less than I was in the tent.
Oh, wow.
So if you look at me when you see Friday, you'll see a little chubbier guy in there.
Hey.
But it was a month of eating and tasting everything to get there. While you're
eating good. Everything. I love it.
Yeah. then when I came back, it's like, okay, how do I stop this?
Oh my goodness. what did Nick want me to ask you? Oh, what do they do with everything? That's a lot of food you guys have prepared, and leftover stuff like that. What do they do with all that food?
You wouldn't believe the size of the camera crew, the recording crew, everything. I mean, I don't think anything goes to waste.
Excellent.
And I mean, and the cool thing is you'll be there. I mean, coming in like for something else, and one of the cameramen will go, "That stuff you made yesterday, that was so good."
Wow.
And it's like just these little wows.
Nice. So, I love it. I love being able to impress like a bunch of crew, or like those are the guys you want to impress, because they've shot this before. They've had other people's like bakes and tastes and so forth. You impress them, you've done your job.
Yeah. I had one guy at one point come up to me. One of the, I don't know if he was a cameraman or a sound guy. Now that's the other thing is you've got a microphone on all the time.
Yeah.
So like from when you get there until when you leave,
you're packed up.
Yeah, you're there. And I had one of the guys come up one day and goes, "I've been watching you. You know what you're doing." And I went, "Okay, fooled somebody here."
That's a heck of a compliment, because I mean they've seen everybody.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you have like on set like experience? You learned and did what you had to do?
Yep. And I mean, and I mean, things would go on. I mean, you've got your apron on, and in the middle of a bake, I felt my microphone dropping.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're going, "Okay, we got to come over and we got to fix your mic." Go, "I don't have time for you to fix the mic. Just stand there and this is quicker. Let's get this done." So again, all those things, but again, everyone's going through the same thing. So that's where you're going, I can deal with this because we're all doing this together.
Excellent. I love Bake Off. And clearly, we make a whole show about it. So, but it always seems like to be one of the most well put together shows of this type. You know what I'm saying? It moves like a machine. It's been going for a very long while now. So I think they probably just know what they're doing. But I like that they treat you guys, the talent, so nicely and make sure you guys are comfortable and taken care of. I like that. I like that about this process.
And it's my understanding that when it became the Roku show 2 years ago, that's when they have Paul and Prue.
Yep.
The entire crew over there, other than our producers, were the British crew.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the past, it wasn't like that. It was like a whole American crew. So this was, again, you went there and you were part of it and you were part of the family. And you walked into that tent and you just go, wow.
It's what in my opinion, is like a watcher of this, like what makes the Roku version of the baking show that much better, because it's more like the baking show, the Bake Off that you know and love. It's the tent. You're in England. It has the Paul and Prue, you know what I'm saying, and so forth and so on. They have tweaked some things and so forth. I wasn't a fan of last year's font, but this year they got something different going. I'm like, there you go. That's what I need you to do. Dial that in. And so I very much enjoy this version of it, because it's more what we come here for, and that's so cool. Were you much of a traveler before this? Have you been? I mean, you said you went to Austria, so I think you've done some traveling. But to just all of a sudden out of nowhere, like you're going to the UK and you're going to live there for a month. Gosh, man.
That was the part that I've never. I mean, in 38 years of practicing law, I've never been off for a month.
Oh wow!
I mean we laugh at the office now because of the paid maternity leave and paternity leave they have. I mean, I'm too old for that part. So when my daughter was born, the law firm I worked for then, I got it to leave early one afternoon to go bring him home from the hospital. When my son was born, I took a week off.
Yeah.
So that was like long. We went to Europe in 2019 and we're gone for two weeks.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh my God. So here I'm gone for a month.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, but again, there's just so much to see, so much to do.
Yeah.
And just so many opportunities there. I got to get the first coin with King Charles on it.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'd read some article that said was only one coin out and you could get it at the post office. And 2 doors down from our apartment building was this little tiny post office in the back of some shop. So I went and go, "Do you have any of those King Charles coins?" I think they were 50 pence.
Yeah.
And the guy says, "Well, how many do you want?" I said, "Well, can I get like 10? And I sort of got a stare back, and he opens up this box and pulls out this little bag and counts 10 out and says, okay, that's 5 pounds.
Yeah.
So I gave him that, and I went back, and one of the bakers, her little boy, I was over there. He just turned 1. So I said, okay. You got to make sure you put this away for him.
Yeah.
So,
that's nice.
So that type of thing. And so again, I mean, we communicate since we've gotten back probably on a daily basis. Okay. We've got a chat. We did at Christmas. We did a Christmas party on Zoom. We did a Secret Santa. We did a Zoom about a week ago saying, okay, everything's going to hit soon. So let's all just check in on how everyone's doing. Yeah. And we've got friends for life.
I love that, like, you know, it's like going to camp as an adult. You get to make all these new friends, and
that's exactly it.
Gosh, that sounds just fantastic. Again, love this show, so I'm very excited. And of course, you're gonna be my go-to guy for, you know what I'm saying, as long as you're there. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I'm cheering for. It's my guy. It's good to have a baker already, you know, that I'm gonna be like, all right, this is cool. I have a favorite.
I can also do commentary.
There you go. Got to do a color commentary. Let me know what's going on in the tent there. Absolutely. I mean, do you do anything outside of baking? Like any goofy hobbies? You know what I'm saying? I collect vinyl. I got a ton of records. Oh, you can kind of see them. I got a ton of records over here, and I play video games and so forth. What do you do?
I'm a frustrated artist. I paint at times.
Nice.
Lately, it's just been more Christmas related. I do a lot of Santa Claus pictures. I'm one of those over-the-top Christmas decorators.
Love it.
My wife is in charge of Halloween and all those decorations. I get Christmas, and then outside, I mean, I don't do a big garden, but I planned. I was just putting some tomatoes in this morning. On Mom's birthday, she always had to have a tomato plant planted with a tomato already on it. And I looked out. I've got a plant, and it's got a tomato about that big. It's going in the ground tomorrow. So do that. I've been involved in the community. I've been involved in music over the years. My kids were in the high school band. I was president of the band parents. Started a jazz and dessert festival for them years ago. It was just a cool thing.
That sounds incredible.
You'd have the middle school, high school, and alumni jazz bands up on the stage playing. And the one school the cafeteria has an auditorium in it. So we had 48 different desserts. So you'd come in and buy a ticket. Back then it was $5. You'd get 10 different dessert selections, and you just go graze around and pick what you wanted out of the 48 things. And then you vote for who you like the best and that. Yeah. So I'm going to do things in the community and volunteer for that. And do what you can to help kids.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, Brad, you're a good dude, man. I love it. Anthony, any additional questions, comments, concerns?
I feel like Brad filled in so many different blanks in my head. That was just like, oh, okay, here, and here, of stuff that we knew over the years.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the vetting process, you can see why they have so many good people on the shows.
Yeah.
Because like you saying, at first I had to do a 15-page questionnaire. Of course, they're picking the brain, and they've been doing it for so long, they know what kind of people to have on it. Yeah. Good people to have on the show, because one of the best things about the show is, yes, we love the bakes, but it's the people we fall in love with.
Correct.
And I can't watch drama-filled shows. That's not my thing. I like being able to have a happy time. Yeah. And they do a great job picking the people. And like he said, it's the joy on your face your whole time talking about this is great. Knowing that you, no matter what, you had a great time. This obviously was a life changing and event for you.
Exactly. You nailed it.
I can't get enough of it. I can't thank you enough for just, for getting this process rolling. because of you, we have other opportunities that have popped up for this for along the show. So we might get to interview some of your other bakers. So that'll be fun.
The other bakers, I actually sent to them, said, "Hey, do you anyone interested? I will ask T and let them know so I can get you contacts for them. They would all be so." Again, you've got people from New York, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and all over California.
Absolutely love it. Everybody has an open invitation. You let them all know.
and they're all as enthusiastic about this and as I think I am.
Good.
So,
good,
like
man.
I said, these are my baking family.
Good. Excellent. So very much. Well, people, again, the Great American Baking Show begins Friday, May 24th. On Roku. You should be watching it because it's amazing, and you get to hang out with a guy like Brad and all his other compatriots, and get to see amazing bakes. You get to have Paul Hollywood Pruley, Zach Cherry, and Casey
Wilson.
Casey Wilson.
Like, I am such a big fan of her. I listen.
Yeah,
to her
you really were excited when she came on.
I love happy endings. One of my favorite shows of all time. I was very, very excited to see that she's on the show. Like, no dissing Ellie Kemper, but Casey Wilson.
Yeah.
Like,
she, like I said, fit like a glove. When we watched that holiday special together, I was like, oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah, not a step lost. So
she was a natural.
I love it. You guys are gonna love it too. I'm telling you right now, just watch it. You'll hear this. It's out the day you hear this episode. So get in there. Come on. Get some of that in there. Brad Gessner, thank you so very much for joining us. Delight. I don't know what too many superlatives to give you at this point. Thank you so very much. A pleasure to make your acquaintance as well. This is, of course, Creme Patisserie. It's a Great British Bake Off podcast each week for the remaining or the next, let's see, we have 8 bakers, so it'll probably be like 6 weeks if everything works out how the show normally works out. We'll be back here week to week sharing with you some good times, and maybe we'll have some interviews with you. We also have, of course, So Chef. It's our The Bear recap show that me and Chaffee are up to. First episode's up by the time you hear this. Second episode might be up the next day after you hear this. We'll see how that all plays out, but we got some things going on over here right now, and I hope you guys are joining us along for the ride. Nick will be back next week, or not. And technically, this is Nick's show, so I probably won't be hosting unless she makes me. I host the regular Bake Off. Nick hosts the Great American Bake Off. It's easy to get it back and forth between us, Brad. So that's how that normally works. But today I had to take the reins because, again, it's her birthday, so she's out celebrating
happy birthday, Nick.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you so very much. Happy birthday, Nick. Again, guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. And bye.
What happened to your ass? It used to be beautiful.